Hello and welcome to this video review of Streets of Rage 4. Yes, it's literally been decades coming, but regardless of whether or not you enjoyed the series back in its early 90s 16-bit heyday, you need to play this one, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. Basically, this is a fantastically arcadey video game. It's the kind where you can just kick back and enjoy the crunching sound effects as you thwack bad guys in the face. It's got a combo meter, which is new, and we'll get onto that. And of course, there's the fantastic new graphics offered by the modern consoles, which make every frame look like it's been taken from a graphic novel. But this is still an old school brawler through and through, by which I mean you simply progress from left to right, beating up bad guys as you take justice into your own hands. And if you've got someone who wants to play with you, whether online or locally, you can do that with your vigilante partner. It's such a simple concept, and games like this have existed ever since Double Dragon back in the 80s. But this is very much like its phenomenal ancestor, Streets of Rage 2. And just like that game, this is produced so beautifully, it's just a joy to play. In fact, I'm so enamored with this game, I want to get the bad points of this review out of the way. It'll be much more worth our while exploring why it's such a success. So firstly, I do wish that there was a block button. And I know the series has never had a block button, but when some of the other enemies can block your attacks, it would surely make sense if you can do the same, especially when you can see a hit coming up and you can't do anything to avoid it. Ah well. Secondly, it's still possible to be just out of alignment on the Z-axis and end up punching thin air as your fist whistles past the bad guy's left ear. Without another button to attack into the screen, like there is in, for instance, Real Bout Fatal Fury, there's not much of a way around that problem, but newcomers in particular might find that alignment issue to be a bit of a problem. Finally, it is a rather short game, and while there is plenty to do once you've finished it, and plenty to unlock, some people will just enjoy its 2-hour or so long story mode, and then, perhaps, never play it again. I would argue that Streets of Rage 2 is actually shorter, and I still often play on that decades after its release, so if the quality's there, it's always going to be a blast to play, and should remain this enjoyable forever, so perhaps it's not something that you should session for days and days, but perhaps come back to time and time again. But I gotta say, that's it. That's the bad stuff out of the way, so let's talk about the good. I mentioned the button layout, and I must say that the new game's control is utterly sublime. It's still really simple, and anyone who's familiar with the old games will be able to play this straight away because it feels like Streets of Rage. But there is a subtle difference, and that is that Punch no longer picks up items like it did on the old 3-button pad, instead letting you pick up items with a dedicated command, leaving the other 3 face buttons solely there for Punch, Jump and Special. The biggest special attacks are bought with star tokens, which you find throughout the levels. They're hidden in trash cans and the like, allowing you to unleash a really large special move a couple of times each level, but it's actually the regular special moves that have received the biggest overhaul. You see, you can still tap special at any time to clear the immediate area around you, losing some energy in the process. That's the cost of using it. But unlike the old games, now not only can you perform a special attack in mid-air, the cost for using specials has been downgraded. So while you still lose health every time you use it, your energy bar depletes a little with each use, but leaves in its wake a segment of green. So if you can punch enemies with normal attacks without getting hit, you get that green segment back. Better still, this system actually solves the issue of friendly fire. If you're playing in co-op and your partner smacks you, which could be accidentally or otherwise, now you can get that HP back with a few moments of skillful play. It works really, really well. It's also worth noting that co-op players can no longer grab each other like you used to, which is a shame if you were used to throwing each other at enemies as makeshift projectiles and then landing on your feet with up and jump. But perhaps this is better for most players, because there did used to be an issue where the 2 people playing the game would end up grabbing each other, and obviously in the middle of a crowd of thugs, that's far from ideal. The combo meter that I mentioned earlier is another great inclusion. Firstly, it helps you see how well you're doing as you chase higher stage completion grades, which are also new, but also the counter is shared between 2 players if you've got another person playing with you, so you're actually racking it up together, and if one gets hit, you drop your combo. So you've always got that impetus to do a little bit better. Similarly, even the score is brought forward into the gameplay, with waypoints ticking up on the screen as you get nearer to an extra life, which again encourages you to play better and shows you what the reward is going to be. The game feels much more involved as a result, but also more arcadey too, which in my opinion is a really good thing. Now you're watching this video, you can see the visuals, they are evidently sensational. They scale effortlessly too, with the camera zooming in and out without any kind of degradation in sharpness, and the returning characters from the old games and the enemy types just look magnificent. They look exactly like they should in HD. There's genuine artistry on show here, but not just from a drawing viewpoint. There's also the finest 2D lighting system that I think I've ever seen, as environmental light sources play on the bodies of the characters, so you get bright hues of illumination which change dynamically according to whatever your character is standing by. It must be some kind of clever palette swap for certain sections of the sprites that change colour dynamically, but whatever it is, it looks absolutely phenomenal, and the characters look brilliantly bedded into the hand-drawn environments as a result. As with many retro-themed games, there are some visual filters to try too, including a surprisingly restrained bloom lighting mode, which is actually my favourite, as well as a CRT scanline simulator and a retro filter. Now that last one only reduces the resolution of the visuals on the entire screen rather than replace the assets with bespoke 16-bit artwork, which is a bit cheap and it doesn't look that great, so I didn't actually play with this for more than a few moments you see here. That said, you can unlock classic characters to play as, complete with all their pixely jaggedness and all their old moves and abilities intact, including the arc of enemies as they fly through the air once you've thrown them. As a result, the game feels like Streets of Rage through and through, which is a real credit to the developers DotEmu, Lizardcube and Guard Crush Games. Just like another brilliant retro sequel in the shape of Sonic Mania, this game really feels like it was made for fans by fans. It's very much the old game that you know and love, with the bad points sanded over and cool new touches added in. I love how the characters are 10 years older. I love the way that Axel has now got a beard, but they're still familiar to play. But I also love the new things, like how you can wake up in a prison cell and have to take on both thugs and jailers while they fight each other at the same time. I also love the touches like a throwback to Streets of Rage 1 in one of the boss fights, and the way that Yuzo Koshiro liked the game so much when he played it at a fan event that he actually contributed new music for this game, having made the soundtracks for the original games. The other new music that he didn't make is also excellent, and it really sounds like Streets of Rage 2. Other things I like, the way that you can now throw a weapon and catch it again on the rebound, which is awesome. I also love the way that Axel and Blaze's new partners are absolutely equivalents of Skate and Max from Streets of Rage 2, with the big heavy strong one and the short fast moving one. It's also cool that some of the old, virtually unavoidable enemy attacks have been almost completely eliminated. Everything is now much more telegraphed, and though there's still plenty of challenge, it's fairer, it feels fairer to play. And also the juggling system, which allows you to carry on hitting enemies as they fall through the air, very much like Virtua Fighter 2. The new mid-air specials add more variety to the action and how you can move around the screen, and the increased arsenal of weapons that you can pick up is balanced and never overplayed. You still play most of the game with your fists, so picking up a weapon feels like a rush of joy. It's never overplayed. You can really tell that care and attention has gone into this game's creation and its balancing, and the result is one of the most authentic and modernity-defying new games ever. I think Shenmue 3 is about the closest equivalent that I can think of in terms of giving fans what they want instead of just pandering to modernity, and it really works here. Now I should note that sadly I haven't been able to test the online co-op mode due to the COVID-19 outbreak that's going on as I make this review, because I'm isolating away from my usual Wi-Fi, and although I did download the game over my tethered phone connection, it won't let me connect to any online games. It's the same for Animal Crossing. I can see the town I want to go to, but I can't go to it. So while I can see the lobbies here, and the game certainly seems decently populated right now, I can't actually join those games to play them, so I'm sorry about that. So please tell everyone in the comments if you've played it online and if you have any likes or dislikes about that aspect of it. Besides co-op, it's got some other modes that open up once you've finished story mode, most notably a new boss rush mode where you can take on all the game's bosses in order with just one life, which is absolutely rock hard I might add. And there's also an arcade mode where you can still win extra lives, but there are no continues. There are also plenty of difficulty options for the story mode, though I would say that the easiest, which is named Easy, seems to me to be about as hard as normal on Streets of Rage 2. The normal mode here is really quite challenging, and that is fine when the game is so short overall, but I did find it difficult to get to the end on normal. So, in conclusion, Streets of Rage 4 is a short but so very sweet romp through the alleyways of my youth. I honestly can't believe how well the game runs on Nintendo Switch. This is all Switch footage that you've been watching here, and it runs at a virtually immovable 60 frames per second throughout. I think there was one scene where I threw a Molotov in the bar, and with all the enemies catching fire, it dropped maybe a frame or three, but that's the only hiccup that I can mention. There are apparently 17 characters to play as in total, many of which are just the characters from the old games, so there are reasons to play it through again, but I think I will come back to it whenever I fancy a two-player romp that doesn't require too much brain work. Now that doesn't mean it's not an intelligent game, in fact far from it. This is one of the most intelligent and sympathetically designed modern sequels around, so even though it's on the short side, I definitely recommend picking it up. That said, it is quite a short game for the price that you have to pay, and now I have actually finished it, I'm not feeling the urge to keep coming back to it like other Switch games recently. So although I love it and I will play it again, I don't think it's quite deserving of the 5-star seal of approval, so I give Streets of Rage 4 4 stars. It's still a fantastic game and it deserves to be played. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you'd like to see some more gaming videos, please take a look around my channel. I've also got a video diary going on as I write and record my third music album, which is called The Ghost Train. Please hit like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks so much for watching. Cheers.